Hello there everyone. This is Sketchyzaya here. Forgive me but I'm currently speaking through the Daniel voice right now. I would talk through my voice, but it's not the best right now. My audio couldn't have a quiet background. But anyway, I've received a comment not too long ago. They asked me how could they make text stories like me, and I told myself, yeah, know what the heck. If they wanna know, why not help anyone? So for today's video, I'm going to give you the full guide on becoming a text tuber, so you yourself can create text stories to your liking. I'll be showing you around the ropes, how to do it, and how I manage the app myself. And don't worry, I'll be explaining everything as simple as I can, so that you can understand. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now I shall begin the guide video today with the app itself, Texting Story. Most text tubers have this app. It's available on both Android and iPhone. This is the app you want to use for your text stories. You may have already seen what it is, but some of you might be new to it, or a bit experienced when you have this app. Don't worry, it may be quite much, but I'm still going to help. Here is the layout. When you open the app, there are many functions around it. Characters, message bar, camera, new comment, the tabs, which I call them, and create video, which is basically the export. The message bar is for your storytelling/dialogue. The camera is for you to add in pictures or GIFs to show what action your character is doing or presenting themselves. New comment is technically another message bar. For me, I use this for background narration, like this right here. Now let's move on to the tabs. I'll start this off with the first tab, My Stories. In this tab, this is where you create libraries of the stories you have. You just simply select New Story and put in the name for that story, so it could be created. The three dots on the side gives you the option to delete or export the story file. So instead of deleting the finished story file, you can always save it in case you ever lose your video or file. The folder on the top right corner is basically for you to import the saved story file. Now before we move on, I just wanna point out something. Do you see the file I have that reads MHA? Just a heads up, you're gonna need one file available to keep all the progress you've created. This is basically your personal archives that holds your saved created characters. If you ever delete it by accident, you may have to recreate everything, and I know that's gonna be a real pain. So remember, keep at least one story file available for your needs. Now we move on to the second tab, Edit Names, which is basically the characters for your stories. This tab can give you an endless amount of characters you want to save up. All you have to do is select Add Name and a new random character profile will be added. Of course you can always edit it. Let's go with my narrator Denki for example. You can change the name to another you have in mind, change the picture for your character, select a base color and a color for the text. Note, you're going to need two colors for the base and text that resembles the character. For Denki, I gave him a yellow base and black text. I basically did it from his hair. And for the last one, the sound effects for your characters. You give them the sound effect of your choosing, but I shall give you a recommendation on the certain sounds I use. The first one, used for male characters. The second, used for female characters. These two in the center, I use them for group types. A crowd of people for example. The star, I use this for shipping characters, like Izuo-chan. The bow, I use this for very evil type characters, like All for One. And the very last one, I use that sound effect for my narration characters. About the other ones I didn't mention. I never use them, and still thinking about what to do with them. There's more info on the characters I'll explain a little later. On to the third tab, Edit Story. You see, anytime you are writing up your text story, you will notice some of your writing won't sound right in your head, or you made some misspells. There's more to that, so I'll explain. Here is when you edit your story. You can tap on the message to change or fix your dialogue, and when it looks good, go ahead and select OK. On the right side, you can see both the plus and minus buttons. The plus button allows you to add a character in the story in case you want to replace the one you have ready, and gives you the option if you want to place them on the left or right side. It also gives you the option to place a comment text too. The minus button allows you to delete some messages, whether it's the names, dialogues or other texts. The big X button on the top is the option for you to delete the entire story. This gives you the choice of redoing everything from scratch. For the names of your characters that's displayed, here's my advice. Always display the names once. When you show a character for the first time, their names will be shown, but when it's their turn to speak again, be sure to delete the displayed name after. That way, your story won't look spaced out. And for the last tab, settings. This is basically your story video format. I'll explain each one. You can add a background image for your story. You can add a title for your story. You have the option to have a light and dark mode based story. You can change the format screen for your video. Video speed is basically how fast you want your videos to go when you export them. I suggest staying with the second option as its average speed. Show typing gives you the option if you want your viewers to see you write up the dialogue or not. The other two at the bottom, I wouldn't suggest using those, but that's up to you. You can always disable the typing sound if it bothers you. Keep corrections is an option if you want your dialogue automatically corrected if you misspelled something. As for the last one, upgrade. You see, when you get the app, everything I told you, it won't exactly let you do much of anything. The important parts I mean. Change your character's colors, change the sound effects, put in pictures, whether it's the character's profile, dialogue pictures or the background. If you want this to happen, you're gonna need to purchase them off. Of course, it's not that expensive. Well, except there's one which is the full version of everything. If you have your whole text story completed, go ahead and select create video. It will need some time to export it, but you're all finished. After it finishes exporting, you have the option to share or download the video. We have finished the inside of the texting story app. Now we can move on to the second segment of the guide. Now for this part, I'm going to explain to you about the writing/planning for your text stories. To begin writing, you will need a notebook to write up your stories. It doesn't matter if you're writing traditionally or digitally, any one of those count. Before writing, you'll need to keep a folder for all stories you wrote. Something like this. To plan a text story, here are the following topics. Text story information. Pictures for the story and characters. Thumbnail for the story. Scripting. Text story information. On paper, you need to write down what text story you come up with, coming up with the title, the plot, the shipping, information on the protagonist and characters who are good and bad in the story. Here's an example of mine for Neglected Deku. Pictures. You will need to have pictures related to the important characters of your story. Not to mention, you're going to need pictures for the background. Based on the story, I recommend going on the website Pinterest to find the images you need. You could always edit them to your liking. Thumbnails. You will need to edit up a thumbnail for your text story video. Add in the main picture for the video. Type up a title. And put a small label as a fan-based texting story. Like this. Then, there's the scripting. This is where you get into creating the story. You need to plan how it all began, how it will progress through the story, how the shipping started, how characters developed, and coming up with an ending. If you are creating a series, then each script you write are episodes. If you do plan on something like this, be sure to take time to think about how it will progress. Even if you are a beginner, try not to rush the process. If you're creating a one-shot, you have to make it as long as possible on one paper from beginning to end. That is very much a lot of work and brain power. Note, while you enjoy writing your stories, keep in mind how your stories will affect your viewers. A lot may like and love it, but there are some who will think otherwise about it. Just a piece of advice. Anyway, if you do begin writing, allow me to show you an example of how I do it. Here's an example image. This is my type of story writing and this is how I put it together. Each red marking tells you each meanings, the narration of the story, the characters' actions of what they are doing, and lastly, third person action. The last one there, you might be a bit confused. The story tells what one or more characters are doing in the scene instead of one character's perspective. For the last red marking, notice this dash right here. The dash means you are creating more than one message for a whole dialogue. Like this. You see, by doing this, viewers can take their time to read what each message says. However, none will like it if you write up a really long message. And I mean really long, that takes up the whole screen. It's best to balance it out through each message. Now since that's settled, I have more explanation on the character info. Here we have the narration characters. For me, instead of having a narrator telling the story of everything, I give roles of short characters that does it for me. Allow me to show you. Each narration character has a role. Narrator. Like Denki, a character who tells the story. Story action. Used for third-person scenes, to observe what the characters are doing. Hidden character. Used for introducing a character to the story. Lastly, blank. Now this character has no meaning. It is simply a placeholder. I use this to move one character on one side to the other for story purposes. Like this. And now, the last bit of character information. When you have a long list of characters, I would suggest to make an order list of characters. You see, if you randomize every characters in different spots, it'll be very difficult for you to look for the character you want. You would need to make a whole list of characters in a simple order. And not just the order, you need to note down on their profile information. Showing 2 examples. The pick on the right, I'll list and divide them like this. That way, I know where to use each character from. Another thing, be sure to add a line character to divide the order like this. That way it wouldn't get in the way. Now here is some additional information I should tell you when becoming a text tuber. When you are writing your story, be sure to check it to see if it's long enough for viewers to read. Let me tell you, depending how long you wrote your written script, the text story app will present how long the video will be. For example, if I were to write 600 plus lines of text, the result will be between 50 minutes and an hour. On the 4th part of my Yandere or Araka video, that script was written with 249 lines of text, which equal to almost 14 minutes of a video. So again, depending on how much you wrote, it will be showed how long your story video is. So keep that in mind. If you ever decide to do a crossover with a story, be sure to have the knowledge of doing it. You have to know the plot and timeline of original shows, games, movies, etc. before doing a good crossover story. Be sure to save your text story videos somewhere. I should warn you, depending on how long your video is, the storage is no joke. So if you have a computer or drive, I would try and save them there in case your videos get deleted. You can re-upload them again. If you plan to have many images for your text stories, especially your thumbnails, create folders to store them all, so you can use them for future use. You can always observe others' text story videos for inspiration, so you can work harder. But I should tell you, it's fine to create stories that's inspired by other text tubers, but do not copy them completely. It's okay to work on stories with the same title, but it's not alright to copy other stories with them. Now we've reached the end of this part. Let's move on to the final segment. Now, time for the final segment of today's video, so listen well. I want to give you some general information on becoming a text tuber. 1. Creating a story takes a lot of time and energy. It can really stress you out throughout the whole day. So do not push yourself too much. You are a human too, just like everyone else. 2. Do not get upset if you don't get recognized so soon. It's a first for everyone. We all have to climb the stairs to get where we are, and not the elevator to take a quick shortcut. Keep that chin up, and I know you'll get recognized for your hard work. 3. When you finally reach the point of your starting community, continue to enjoy what you do. Popularity is good, but it's not everything. Continue being you, and never forget who supports you all this time. 4. If your stories have grown popular, do not rush the process. As I said, don't push yourself. Always take your time to think about what to write next for your stories. Everyone has to learn to be patient. 5. At some point in time, you will get hate comments from people who dislikes your stories that much. I cannot lie, words do hurt that much, but you cannot let mean comments like those get to you. Always focus on those who loves your content and supports you. That's what really matters. 6. You write whatever stories you want. It is your channel. You are in control of it. No one else does. While it's a good idea to make some stories based on people's comments, it could get a little out of hand sometimes. Remember that. Last one, if you ever include audio, music or clips in your text story videos, always, and I mean always, leave context of you using it for entertainment purposes and leave information on where you got it from, so you won't get copyrighted for it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you love this video. Leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, see you for the next video.